It's time to get all set for Sunday, a podcast for busy and distracted Catholics with your hosts, Scott Williams and Jeff Traylor.
When I hear the coffee brewing, I think, what the heck we doing? Because I got barely any sleep last night. As the diaper bag I pack with Hot Wheels dollies and some snacks, I say a prayer there'll be a seat in the crime room this time. It's alright, cause I'm all set for Sunday. It's alright, cause I'm all set for. It's alright, cause I'm all set for. It's alright, cause I'm all set for Sunday.
Welcome to All Set for Sunday, a podcast for busy and distracted Catholics to be a little more prepared for Sunday Mass. My name is Scott Williams. My co-host is Jeff Traylor. Hey, Jeff.
Hey, Scott.
How's it going, bud?
Good. We're close.
Yeah,
to each other here.
this is nice.
Yeah.
Father Christian is not close. Down in St. Minor in Indiana. How are you, Father?
I'm just pretty good. How are you guys?
Good. What's so funny?
Good. I'm laughing because we were having a little tech problem before with the audio, and then all of a sudden it just got super loud, like so loud. So that's why I'm laughing. I feel like I don't know. Like, do you remember Spies Like Us when they're in the spaceship and their faces going backwards or whatever? You know, it's just so loud. It's like I feel it. So anyway, but I got it under control.
You know how to turn it down?
Yeah, we're good.
Okay. Great.
Amazing. How's your Lent going, Father?
My Lent. Oh, my Lent. It's going really good. Yeah.
Oh, my Lenta.
Yeah. How's yours?
It's been great.
Yeah.
Good.
Solemn. I don't know.
Solemn.
Preparative.
Super.
That's right.
Solemn.
Solemn.
Been doing a lot of prayer, fasting, and almsgiving.
Oh,
Been crushing
good.
Over and over and over. Yeah.
Just crushing in that department.
yeah. I
How-
hope it's.
What have you been up to?
What have I been up to?
Yeah.
That's just the whirlwind of life. Teaching in the seminary and being in the parish. It all keeps me pretty busy. So it's good. It's really good.
Well, good. I'm glad you're
Amazing.
staying busy. I feel like you'd get bored real easy if not.
I do have to kind of keep with a lot of things happening, but I always tend to fill my time pretty well. So
Good.
All right. Ready for the 2-minute drill?
Yeah.
Let's do it.
We know he is. Am I right?
Well, he likes banter if he's involved in it.
Oh yeah. All right. It is the third Sunday of Lent. We're not doing the scrutinies, Father, so I hope you're ready. So our first reading comes from Exodus chapter 3. It's a long one. But Moses is tending his sheep in the wilderness, and he comes across the burning bush. Here's the voice of God. A tale is told as time, literally. And we've heard it. So God reveals himself as the God of Moses, and the ancestors tell him that he has seen the suffering of the Israelites in Egypt. God commissions Moses then to lead his people out of bondage, assuring him of his presence. And when Moses asks for God's name, God responds, I am who I am, and instructs Moses to tell the Israelites that I am has sent him to them, affirming his eternal and unchanging nature.
Do you think they had like a whole who's on first, what's on second? I don't know. It's on third.
I do imagine that. They're like, who sent you? I am. You're sending? No, I am send me. Yeah. What sent him? Yeah, that's how it works. Our responsorial psalm, we are in banger season. That's what I know about Lent. Lent is banger season, and it's very exciting stuff because the Lord is kind and merciful.
Indeed.
Yes.
So good.
The Lord is kind and merciful. It just makes me really happy to know that that's coming. I got to Mass last week and was like all giddy. I was like, I know there's going to be a banger. I'm super excited. And here we are again. Our second reading then comes from Corinthians. So 1 Corinthians chapter 10. So Paul's reminding the Corinthians of their spiritual heritage. He's recounting these same stories from that we heard in the first reading here from the how the Israelites were baptized by Moses, how they ate all the same spiritual food, drank from the same spiritual rock, and all of that being Christ. And that despite these blessings, many of them still fell into sin and faced consequences, serving as a warning to believers. So Paul is urging those Corinthians to avoid the same pitfalls by being vigilant, as even those who are spiritually privileged can fall. He emphasizes that God provides a way out of temptation, and believers should remain humble, knowing that they have their own vulnerability to sin. And then our gospel reading. Our gospel comes from Luke chapter 13, verses 1-9. Some people told Jesus about the Galileans whose blood Pilate had mingled with the blood of their sacrifices. Jesus said to them in reply, "Do you think that because these Galileans suffered in this way, they were greater sinners than all other Galileans? By no means. But I tell you, if you do not repent, you all will perish as they did. Or those 18 people who were killed when the tower of Siloam fell on them. Do you think they were more guilty than everyone else who lived in Jerusalem? By no means. But I tell you, if you do not repent, you will all perish as they did." And he told them this parable. There once was a person who had a fig tree planted in his orchard. And when he came in search of fruit on it, but found none, he said to the gardener, "For 3 years now I have come in search of fruit on this fig tree, but I have found none. So cut it down. Why should it exhaust the soil?" He said to him in reply, "Sir, leave it for this year also. I shall cultivate the ground around it and fertilize it. It may bear fruit in the future if you cannot cut it, or if not, you can cut it down." Ooh,
Let's try one more time.
huh?
I don't know. I just feel like it's.
Oh, with the fig
Yeah.
tree. No, just give it. Let me one more chance. One more chance.
Didn't do it. Let me try.
I was
one
like,
more
I have to read it again.
No. Father Christian, are we still blowing your eardrums out?
A little bit, and I can't quite figure out. So, but it's all right. I'll be all right. It's good. It's better
right.
than what I had before, which was I couldn't hear you. So I'd rather go deaf than not hear you. So
This is the milk and
I'm
honey,
willing-
baby.
I'm
Milk
willing
and
to
honey.
sacrifice my ears to hear your sweet voices.
Thank you for your service.
Yeah.
Did Jeff get anything wrong, Father?
He might have gotten God's name wrong, depending on the translation.
Oh yeah,
Oh, that's important.
there's that one.
How do you say it?
Does it say "I am who I am," or does it say "I am who am"?
I am who am. That's my bad.
Yeah, that's okay.
That's I am's bad. No,
No
that's my
problem.
bad.
You're bad.
Otherwise, he did.
Am, not I. Yeah,
Otherwise, he did excellent. Got everything
got to be your bull.
perfect. Perfect. Good summaries, Jeff. Good
Thanks,
summaries. Good reading.
Thank you.
All right, Father Christian, what are you
You're
preaching on this
welcome.
weekend? Are you at the parish?
I have 2 masses this Sunday. One of them is at the parish, and one is at a nursing home.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So,
Do you go same homily for both?
I don't know. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. I usually write it for the parish, and then when I get to the nursing home, there's not like a good place to like. I tend to not use paper when I'm preaching at the nursing home. There's no like good thing to put the paper on. There's no ambo, so I just preach without notes. And sometimes I remember what I wrote down, and other times I just kind of shape it a little different for the audience at hand. So
Kind of shape it to the pop culture of the nursing home.
yeah, exactly, for sure. No, I usually do like a lot of preaching about artificial birth control and things like that, sexual ethics, keep all that, No, I'm kidding.
Sometimes God just brings us a liquid diet, and we just
I just
Oh,
that was good.
we used to have a monk who would go into nursing homes and preach about stuff that was really more for like the college crowd,
Yeah.
the crowd that you're trying to encourage, maybe more towards chastity. He pulled all that stuff out the nursing home, and people were like, "What are you doing?" So yeah, that's why I can't take credit for that joke. It was a lived reality for somebody. So
Not even a joke. It was just
Yeah.
a story.
now it's a policy.
yeah, it's a story. All right. Now I think what I want to talk about is how can I put it? The danger and importance, both,
Okay.
of sacred times and sacred spaces.
Okay. Go on.
Danger and importance. Okay.
Yeah, of sacred times and sacred spaces. So a couple of things got me thinking like in this direction. One is Lent. I think around this time last year, I was on your podcast and I talked about the things to give up for Easter. And I'm actually doing a parish mission based on that this year up in Vincennes. And the whole idea of that is that, you know, Easter should be not the end of something, but the beginning of something. But a lot of times with Lent, we get really serious about our relationship with God during this time. And then Easter comes and it's sort of like, okay, that was nice. You know, it's over now, right? So we have this sacred time, but then we just forget about it. And the other thing that just got me thinking about that was the first reading, you know, the sacred space that Moses is in as this goes to this place up in the mountain. In the Old Testament, the mountain is usually the place that you meet God. And so, you know, he's doing his daily thing, taking his flocks to the desert, very ordinary, very mundane, very common. And then all of a sudden, like next verse, he's up in the mountain and he's talking with God and he has to take his shoes off and he's in God's presence and there's a burning bush and there's the voice of the Lord. There's like this very sacred space. And so, you know, what is that going to mean when he's not there? And so just thinking about this, you know, kind of tension that we have between sacred times and sacred spaces and everything else. And so the danger of having a sacred time and a sacred space, right? It's kind of like, it's easy to recognize. In a way, I think it's easier to recognize the danger of it than its importance. Because the danger of it is our faith becomes about a time and a place. And so that's when we do it, right? I'm a Catholic. What does that mean? It means I go to mass on Sunday morning at 7 a.m. And then it's over. I'm in that church at that time and then it's over. And, you know, I did my thing and that's it. Right. And so I've kind of turned faith into a time and a place only. And now I have a division between that and the rest of my life. And the same, like with Lent, you know, we have this time of year. We get really close to the Lord, but then the danger of it is the other 325 days of the year, you know, not like, you know? And so there's a danger of the sacred time and the sacred space. And then it's like, well, both them, why do we have them? Like, why not just, you know, why do we have them? You know, so, and I think about that too. And so that they aren't, even though there's a danger, it's like they're worth the danger because, it's in those times and spaces that we get renewed. We have a privileged way of relating to God that we're supposed to then take out into every other part of our life. I mean, we use the language of the Eucharist as a source and the summit. So it's a source that's supposed to feed us and nourish us for everything else. But that doesn't mean it's some kind of, it's not Egypt that we leave behind. It's a source that is supposed to influence the whole rest of our life. And I also think like the only way really for God to meet us is to have those sacred times and spaces. Like we really can't have a relationship with God without them. Because we are creatures in time and space. and God is beyond time and space, and so the only way for God to sort of get to us is by coming in a particular way through time and space that's different from everything else in time and space. It's the only way.
Let me see if I'm tracking right. Are you saying that the sacred time and space can be dangerous if we approach it in the wrong way, or we only are seeing Lent as this time of the rest of the year is a free-for-all? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. Like if we treat the sacred time and the space as just like another planet that we go and visit every now and then, and it doesn't have anything else to do with everything else, right?
Got it.
I mean, even in this story of Moses, God says, I have heard the cries of these people, and I'm going, to go rescue them and lead them. So he's already sort of saying, like, it's not just about what you're doing here on the mountain. It's about everything else. But we have this kind of tendency, I think, a dangerous tendency to treat the sacred as something cut off and divided from the rest of our lives. And so, whether that's Lent, whether it's Sunday Mass, that it's just a common human tendency to say, well, all I need to do is be there at that time in that place. When really that time and place is supposed to influence everything else. And
it's not like I can have Sunday Scott and rest of the week work week Scott and Gym Rat Scott. And but like God, but that Sunday should orient me and like gear me up to be the best Christian I can be the rest of the week.
Yeah. And really, like, there's no other way for God to orient us without that.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if we had no sacred times and spaces, right, we'd never be able to recognize God as different from everything else in our world.
Yeah.
We wouldn't be able to pick it out and say, that's the God who's supposed to be shaping me. That's the God who's supposed to, that's what I'm supposed to be listening to above the noise of everything else. We have to have these sacred times and spaces in order to orient us, in order to give us that compass. And so, but at the same time, we can't then say that the time and space, the sacred, is cut off from everything else. Yeah. It has to be the source that changes us to then bring his grace out into the world.
So how can we protect ourselves from that danger?
Oh, I don't know. That's why I come to these things, because you guys, you're the practical ones. Then I ask you how we do that, and then that's what I take to my homilies.
Yeah. I was gonna, like,
he's not joking. I like it.
I mean, there is I'm just thinking in the world of like, okay, I'm talking to a Benedictine monk who has the bells of the Arch Abbey waking you up in the morning. You're going to your morning prayer and you have your routine. And I think Lent has been a time for me to be challenged in finding routine in prayer, and that's one of the focuses of my Lent this year is how do I find a sustainable prayer routine that goes beyond just this Lenten practice, but becomes a part of my daily life. And it's not easy, and I think that there's intentionality in the seasonality of the liturgical life to kind of put us back in check and to reorient ourselves. But it doesn't mean that it's not a struggle, because it is a struggle. Like, yeah, I was hoping you'd give me an answer, not come up with an answer.
I like what you said, like that for your Lent, you're trying to establish a routine that you're going to carry over after Lent. And I think that's a healthy and good way to think of it. I mean, some people do really extreme things during Lent, and that's cool. I mean, that's fine. Like, I won't criticize that and say that's necessarily bad. I definitely take on more during Lent than I do at other times. They're not necessarily things I plan to keep the rest of the time,
Right.
but I also don't want to think about, how am I going to think about Easter? Like, am I going to think about Easter as just like the time, the excuse to sin again,
Mhm.
or, the time to get all lax again, the time to, um, you know, uh, whatever strength I built up during this time, I'm, thank heavens that's over. I hope that's not how I'm thinking about Easter. Um, I think too, like, you know, having for well, you guys, in terms of the practical, like, the way that we think of a domestic church, is really important. That so that what you do, in Mass on Sunday, um, you continue to find ways throughout the week that reference back to that. So, in certain ways, through just the prayer that you continue to do
Mhm.
in the home, um, and really, I guess all the ways that we live as a disciple, when we're being intentional about that, we're not leaving the Mass at, you know within the shadow of the steeple.
Yeah. I've been trying to think of it in the world of like, I don't even want to say balance because I think balance gives the wrong
Yeah.
indication because then it's just like one or the other. But like, how do you live out a
Hmm.
fullness in the things that you're doing? Because there's certain aspects of life that you need to keep in check. Like, so like the spiritual and prayer side needs to be where it needs to be. The intellectual side needs to be where it needs to be. The physical exercise needs to be where it needs to be. And then you have your family life too, and sleep and rest, but also play. Like all of those things need to be well rounded and given attention to without totally ignoring one of those, because ultimately if I totally ignore my family but I'm crushing it in prayer life, then is that good? Is that just? Probably not. Like I need to figure out ways to live all of those aspects in the fullness that I can.
For sure. For sure.
um, that's all.
I'm glad I could be here for that conversation. No, that was really
I
good.
was like, "Where are you, Jeff? I see
Oh,
you."
I mean, you guys were
But I
locked
didn't
in.
hear
Didn't
you.
want to interrupt. No, I did find myself sitting here reflecting. Like, you're absolutely right about these dangers and the gifts that come of it. Because, like, my immediate thought was like, okay, that is a danger, but like, also that God gave us that, right? He is the one that has steered us towards sacred time and place.
Right.
But then I found myself as you were talking, thinking like, well, this is also like one of those things where like I can think of like 10 different like quotes or statements from holy people and saints and things that talk about this whole idea of how do we carry forth, I mean, how do we go for the Great Commission itself, right? Is to go forth, right? It's not just to be only present in that space, but it is how does that just infuse everything we're doing in our lives. And I think infused becomes that piece of like, if we can incorporate what we've experienced there into the rest of our lives, and it elevates all those other pieces.
Mhm.
Scott, like it not keep it separate, but how does it become a piece of that?
I mean, the day we're recording this, the first reading, was from Isaiah, and it was about how sins are like scarlet on snow. It's a image. I think it shows up in another place in Scripture too. But that image of like, you get this other color like into the snow, and then it's sort of, probably you can imagine it sort of like spreading out and sort of like soiling and like staining like a big spot in the ground. But sort of, we can think of the grace in the same way, right? That the grace of the Mass is supposed to get in and spread out over everything. And so that sacred time and sacred space where we, fuel up, as you will, is really meant to then infuse everything in our life. And you kind of said you didn't love maybe the word balance, and I kind of also agree with you. Like, it can sound like, I don't know, that we're part-time, we're just part-time Christians, and we have this sort of Christian job, and we punch in, we punch out, and then we on to the other thing. I got to go work out. It's not Christian time. I think we do need the time that is only prayer, but that spiritual life that we get nourished and strengthened in that time is meant to spread out then into everything else, including working out, including your fun times with your family, including your work day. And it doesn't mean that, I mean, if I go to a doctor, like if I'm getting, heart surgery, like I don't want my surgeon saying Hail Marys while he's giving me heart surgery necessarily. Like, I want him focused on what he's doing. Right. I mean, he needs to be totally honed in. And there are times where we have to, like, we shouldn't be like directly praying. There are going to be times where that needs to be the case. But who we have been shaped to be by our prayer in terms of people who take care of the world as God's world, it's going to infuse everything else.
Talk about bangers.
Yeah. Every time, Father. Every time you bring it, Howard. That's great.
Ready for some dumb questions?
Yeah. You're going to knock those nursing home people.
I don't know what am I saying to the nursing home people. We'll come up with something. All right.
Yeah.
What do you got?
Oh, for dumb questions?
Yeah.
Okay, here's it's more dumb conversation. All right.
Okay.
I've been thinking about this for a while. By just the nature of being busy and enjoying it, we've been going to a lot of different churches around Indy here lately. And I think often about what is it that makes a church feel welcoming, right? When you come in, you're not from there, you come in, you're going to mass or whatever. Hot take, top of my list of like things I think churches need to pay more attention to like make people feel welcome and like, okay, this is the place I want to be. Bathrooms. Like, I've been surprised at how many bathrooms I've been like in at a church that are just like not well kept and like things falling apart. Not like anything disgusting or but like just not like kept up, right? Like chipped sinks or markings on the wall, like, or old like holes in the drywall from something.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I was interested in your guys' thoughts on this. Like, I'm just thinking in the sense of like, you show up to a new place, you go in, like, does the place feel hospitable, right? You go to somebody's house to visit their house for the first time.
I'm just thinking about best church bathrooms in the Archdiocese.
Yeah.
Clear answer, Sacred Heart.
Yeah.
I don't know.
That is a really nice one. I forgot about that.
It used to be the baptistry, and they're still
I love this conversation.
Yeah. So I have no idea.
My dad had very strong opinions about like which truck stop chains had the best bathrooms.
Buc-ee's. Not a truck stop.
Not a truck stop. Yeah. You're right.
It's not plentiful enough, when you're on the highway. So he was a strong believer in loves. So
all you need is loves.
I was not expecting the same conversation about church bathrooms. So yeah, okay. I'll take that one and under consideration, make sure that we're doing a good job at our parish of having a good, well-kept, maintained, clean bathroom. Yeah.
Well, I think it speaks to a larger thing of like, we think all the time with the narthex and when people walk, like, I think there's a lot of thought that goes into how do we keep our own parishioners updated on things, right? How do we keep and we're thinking about our own, but I do think there's some value to thinking about like, what is this like for a stranger who walks in here for the first time? Mm-hmm. What is this experience like do we have 8 booths set up and a bunch of, like, or like what is, have we like picked things up? Has the trash been emptied? Like, I don't know. It's an interesting thing. I know at St. Mark we went through like a 6 or 8 month stretch where like the stall door in our bathroom didn't have a lock on it. It was like this big discussion that we were having. I was like, I don't understand why this is so hard to figure out. Like, we should just fix that. Like that should, like it. I think, but it made me start paying more attention as I've gone other places at like, are we thinking about our guests and how they're received, or do we treat it like sometimes our family, like, I don't care if this bathroom's clean because it's just family, and like, I don't know. And is that good or bad, or I don't really know. But this is something that's been stewing around in my head, I thought, and it's for sure dumb. So I thought I'd bring it to this group.
I think it's, I mean, similar to like a restaurant. They say like the cleanliness of a restaurant bathroom is a direct correlation to the cleanliness of the kitchen. And I don't know if there's a direct correlation there for churches, but you can always tell when like maybe a church's school and church building was built around the same time, and there's like a rollover of materials that was used in a larger purchase for that. Usually different. I don't know about cleanliness though, because I feel like everybody has like their own, like some people have volunteer people that clean things, and like other people have a contract service.
Again, I don't know that it's cleanly in the sense of like disgusting, but it's more of like, how is it presenting itself, right? Like I said, like there's tiles chipped off on the wall or something, or drywall gouges or like, it's just, I'm not saying every weekend you have your maintenance
or
guy
can you find it?
Like, yeah. Is it just clearly marked? Yeah. Anyway.
I think I don't have strong opinions about the bathrooms, but
you don't have to use them. You probably have your own fancy one.
Occasionally. I do think your question though, like, is vital. Well, not the question of what is this experience like for the person who comes in for the first time, and that question is not asked enough. Maybe it is by you, and kudos to you for asking it. But I think it's just not asked enough in the church. Like, what if somebody walks in? Who is going to meet? Who's going to say hello? Who's going to make them feel like they were not ignored and they were not a total stranger. Now, last year I went and visited this Lutheran church in Virginia where a bunch of my ancestors on my mom's side had been baptized. I was curious about the church. So I went in there and I actually went to one of the services, and I was like mauled by, like, I was like so many people came and talked to me that it was sort of too much, and so that you could, virtue is always a mean. You can overhost, just as you can underhost, but I think probably in the Catholic Church, we tend to fail more on the side of underhosting, Yeah.
When I was in college, I took a class on world religions, and one of the projects was to go to a different denomination for worship on the weekend. And I remember people coming back in one of the churches that people had gone to, like, you walked in, they welcomed you, they asked you to fill out a card, and by the time they got home, there was a welcome basket on their front porch with like home baked goods and like things, and I was like, oh man, like I'm not saying everybody's got to do that, but the thought process there of like, what was their experience is,
I don't know. It's like, how did they take that? Did they take that as
they were college students and it was free baked goods? They loved it.
Okay, cool. I think I would probably take it like, hey, that is pretty impressive. I might take it like that's stalking, No,
the other story I was going to say is one time we were traveling, just my family, and this is probably 4 or 5 years ago. So our girls were teens and preteens, right? And we went to a parish. We were in Kentucky, and we went to mass at a local parish. Beautiful old church, but very clearly like a church that like it had been combined with another parish, and like you could just see things were kind of fading a little bit around there. But anyway, we went in, we sat up front like we always do. We had mass like twice before mass, and by 3 different people after mass. People came up, and you could tell there was this like, oh my gosh, a young family with young kids. Like we're so excited. Like father stopped on his like way out to like greet us and talk to us and say hello. And then all these, yeah. And it was like so heartbreaking. I was like, should we move here? I feel guilty.
We moved here because we felt so bad they didn't have any young people.
Yeah, we were so welcome. We moved here. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway.
I get it. Okay. Well, hey guys, this is good. Thank you.
Oh, the last thing I would add to the bathroom thing is my wife's number one addition to this would be changing tables. If you're at church without changing tables in your bathrooms, you're missing something.
That is a great point. That is a great point.
Your church is going to die.
Yeah. In the men's room too.
Yes. All right. Thank you, Father.
Thanks, Father.
You're
Bye.
welcome. Yeah. Bye-bye.
It's alright, cause I'm all set for. It's alright, cause I'm all set for. It's alright, cause I'm all set for Sunday.